Hello and welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make a dark forest scene in Blender. And I'm also going to be teaching you how you can make environments that actually tell a story. So we are going to be a bit more advanced today. I will still leave all my shortcuts in the bottom left corner of the screen so you can follow along even if you're a beginner, and I'll try to keep it simple. Also stay tuned for our sponsor, which I'll be talking more about later. So the first thing we are going to do is just delete the default scene by pressing A and X, and then we are going to add in a plane. Scale this up with S for about 10 times, so it's 20 by 20 meters, and then about 5 times more, so 100 by 100 meters. And with Ctrl A, we're going to be applying the transforms, and we have a really big plane. What we want to do now is just find some reference images. It all looks AI generated for some reason, but they're pretty cool. You can also find some reference on Instagram. A lot of things here that are really cool to look at, and you can get some ideas for that. So I wanted to look a little bit like this, so with a lot of mist and a lot of leaves on the ground, dead trees. Kind of apply that to your own environment, but also make it your own because you don't want to be copying. You can learn a lot by copying, but I just prefer to give my own twist on it. So what we're going to be doing is just subdividing this plane a bunch of times until it looks like this. And then what we can do is just displace the terrain, and there are a lot of ways you can do this. But for now I am going to do the sculpt method, since I've covered pretty much every single other method, so I thought this would be cool to show you as well. So in the sculpt tab we have this normal sculpt brush where you can sculpt in some hills, but I'm actually going to add in a new texture and open it up. I'm going to be using a brushstroke texture which I made myself. If you want a video on that, please leave a comment. So right here, my image, and we just need to calculate the alpha and just click a clip right there. And now in the sculpting, we can add in a texture, which will be our texture, and set this to area plane. And we can sculpt in our texture. As you can see right here, just set the auto smooth to pretty high, and then the strength down until you get something smooth. Like something like this. And what we're going to be doing now is just adding some splashes, just kind of displacing the terrain a little bit so it's not flat, and rotating around so it doesn't look all the same, changing the scaling, just something like this until it looks how you want it to. And I think this will look pretty great actually. Here's some smaller ones. This is pretty much what I want. It's going to be really flat, and normally I don't like it that way since you can see the horizon, but we'll find a fix for that later. For right now, we just have our plane, and we can add in some trees to this. So there's a couple ways you can add some trees. You can use the free software called TreeIt to make your own trees. You can download tree models from the internet on Sketchfab or CG Trader, or you can buy a add-on like Baeac or Gscatter, Quixel, nature assets. There's a lot of methods you can use to add some trees. For example, you can search tree on CG Trader, then just filter by free, and wait a little bit, and you have these beautiful trees here. These are perfect to use in your scenes. So since I always use my Baeac add-on, I don't think it's fair to always use it. So for this video I'm going to be using some free assets I can find on the internet, and I can leave a link in the description for every single one I used. So in CG Trader we're going to be searching for tree and then setting it to free so we get all the free trees. So I found these 3 trees, pretty high polygons, but we can just download this. And then we can go back into Blender and just import these. And here are our spruce trees. So these are pretty much just the same quality as my Baeac collection. So I don't really mind using those. They are pretty high poly. If you want, you could probably decimate some of this, but I think I'm just going to use it like this. We can just reset the location. We're pressing Alt G. and then moving it down by about 100, rotating it on the x-axis by -90 degrees, and then applying the rotation. Is go over to the particle system, add in a new particle system, set to hair, enable advanced rotation, and set the render to collection. Move these 3 trees to a collection called trees, and in the plane again, just select that collection, and we have 1,000 trees on our little tiny plane. Set that to about 100 trees, and change the scaling to 1 and the randomness to like, let's say 0.6 something, and it's already looking pretty great. They are a little bit too big though, because you have to imagine this plane is 100 by 100 meters, so these trees must be what, like 80 meters tall, which isn't unlikely for trees, but not these ones. They are 60 to 75 feet, so that's 18 to 23 meters, so they need to be about this big. And just go into the rendered view to preview our scene. See if it has textures, if it's lighted properly. Yeah, so they have textures, and I'll leave them in the description so you can use them. So what we're going to be doing now is just adding in some lighting and our camera. So for the lighting, I'm going to be using a free HDRI you can find on Polyhaven. I'll leave this one in the description. I'm going to be using the Misty Morning Kloofendal. It makes it look a little bit like black and whitish, and I really like that for this dark forest scene. It also is close to the reference material we found. For the camera, I want a stranded car in the middle, or another object, another vehicle in the middle. So what we're going to be doing now is just going to the edit mode and selecting the middle part and kind of making a hole in the forest. And go over to the data properties and make a new weight group with this inverted and assign it. And the tree should be right there. So go to vertex groups and enable this group. And we have a beautiful hole in the middle where we can place a camera somewhere right here, or maybe on the other side of this tiny hill, probably right here. Set the focal length to like 34 and just move it down a little bit, rotate it to something like this. This is pretty cool. For the sake of optimization, what you can do is just select the plane again, go into edit mode, and then with the box select, just select everything that's in your camera view, and then Control plus on the numpad a couple times, and then just invert this. Go over to the vertex group again and remove these vertices. So now all of your trees are just in the place where you can see them, and it's better for performance. You can just delete some trees. And you can add them back wherever you want. I also recommend doing this in the wireframe mode, so everything behind the hills are selected as well. And just select some parts on the side here, as well as here, for some lighting. If we add some passport 2, we can only see what's in our camera view. Just add some more trees. See how this looks. And now just kind of play with where you want your trees to be. So for example, I want some trees near my camera, right here. Add some more trees there. And maybe play with the seed and the number until it looks about right. And I think I'm going to be going for pretty much just exactly this. As you can see, the trees are kind of hovering above the ground, and we don't really want that. So what you can do to fix that is just select these trees again, go into edit mode, and move them on the y-axis by 0.1 and then down, or 0.2, just so the origin point is a little bit above the center right here. And if you preview this, we can see that trees are going into the ground like they are supposed to. Now we can add some grass to the scene, and we can pretty much just use the same vertex group. So we can deselect every vertex and then click select on our group right here. And then we can see we have some selected vertices we don't really want, so we can remove those in the meantime. And go over to the other group and assign it, and then just patch this part right up, because we also want grass right there. We could probably also just remove everything and do the same thing again with the box select trick. So now we have everything that's in our view has some grass to it. For the grass, you can do the same thing again. Just download a grass model, or you can model it yourself with the new CG Geek video, which is pretty cool. But I'm just going to use Botanic for this one, since I can't be bothered to find good grass models. I know Quixel has really great grass models, so you can use those. That would work really well. So you can just use Quixel. But I'm using Botanic since I already have that. So in our reference, we saw a lot of leaves. Since we don't have trees that have leaves, we're going to be using the coniferous, just the tiny needles of the trees. And then just scattering it all around the floor until it looks something like this. And then we just need to add some tiny bit of grass. Let's go just dry. Yeah, this is pretty much how I envision a coniferous forest looking like. I really love the ground here. So the key part with the grass is to have some layers to it. So right now I want to look for some weed and just add that to the scene as well. Probably a tall grass, exclude the base material. Make sure it's not that green, and just take down the intensity of this a little bit. So 1,000 is probably too little. Probably need 10,000 of these tall grass things. Or 5,000 will probably work as well. As you can see, these give a little bit of accents of green, but not too much, which is pretty much exactly what we're looking for. You can look to find some extra things like rocks. I would also want some rocks to the scene, but just keep your base layer, like the grass and the twigs and the like pine cones. Keep those the main focus of your ground, and then you can add some little things to the side as well. So just remove those big rocks, and we're left with the little pebbles, which is perfect in this scene. As you can see right here, it's maybe a little bit too much, but I kind of like it. And this is perfect. I don't want to change anything about the floor. And I now realize that I don't have all of them set to my node group or my vertex group. So that's kind of a mistake on my part. So this is pretty much it fixed. So it performs a lot better in the viewport. It doesn't lag nearly as much. So now for the story part, we can, of course, for better performance, set this viewport display down so we don't have as much trees and we can see much better. So for the story part, I want to add in a car that's on fire. You don't really need a story for it, just add something weird. People will look at it and think, how did it get there, or something else. So maybe I want to add in a VW bus. We can search for it on CG Trader, select free, or maybe this broken down VW Beetle, which is a photo scan. Actually, this sounds pretty cool. So I'll leave this in the description as well. I can just download this and add it to my scene. So just import it to our scene, and we can set this to our 3D cursor and kind of put it into the ground to show that it's been there for a while. Now that we've established where our subject will be, we can just preview where our trees will be. And we see we have a lot of more wiggle room for trees to be. We can also select our camera and set the depth of field on our car. And set the focal length to 1.4 something. The only thing we need to add is mist, which we can see from our reference. And then add in the flames that I wanted to add. Or we could just make it overgrown as well. You can do that as well. Both will work as long as there is a story to your environment. So for this one, I just threw in a car, and immediately you can think, how did it get there? Why would someone drive here with a Beetle? Why are the tires popped and gone? Where is that tire? All those things come to mind. And I just added in a car that I think looked cool. So you don't need an explanation for everything you add. Just try to make a story and try to make it cohesive and not too complicated. And that's pretty much the tip I wanted to give you. So for the fog, I saw in my reference that it's a pretty thick fog. So I was thinking to use a emission instead of a volume scatter, since I really like that for the morning fog. There's something different about that kind of volumetrics, if you know what I mean. Like the morning fog is more white-ish. It's more white, and normal fog that you would see in a building or something, that's more the volume scatter kind, where it's a lot grayer. So just add in a new shader, call this fog, and delete it principled BCF, add in an emission, set to the volume, set the strength to 0.05, and this should already look pretty cool. Maybe a little bit too much, 0.01. Yeah, this is pretty much what I was going for. So add in a Musgrave texture to add in some details, like right here, with a math node, of course, set to divide by about 100 to get the same effect, and a color ramp, because we also don't want it to be perfectly black. Something like this, some more detail, a little less dimension, and this is absolutely perfect. There's nothing I would do differently about this. As you can see from the top, and to get rid of this white spots from our HDRI, what we can do is probably just add in a plane, scale it up a lot, rotate it so it faces our camera, which we can do by probably just adding in a constraint, copy rotation, set to our camera. Yeah, perfect. And add in a black material. So just this basic material. And it will be dark in the background. This is better than adding a lot of trees going to infinity, since it will be black either way. It doesn't matter too much. So it's a really efficient way of our resources. And I'm pretty happy with this. We can enable our other particle systems to see those in action. And this is basically everything I wanted to do. If you want, you can just set your 3D cursor somewhere here and just duplicate one of the trees and place them there to kind of give you that feel that you're actually in a forest somewhere and it's not completely empty in the front. And this will be my final render. But don't click off yet, because we still have to look at our sponsor for today, which is GarageFarm.net. So GarageFarm is going to help me render this, because as you can see, if we go into the rendered view, it kind of takes a long time to render everything. And especially if I wanted to add in a flame animation, So we can also look at the wireframe, and in the camera view we can see that it's pretty much just completely black, which means a lot of topology. So rendering this wouldn't be really easy. So we are going to be using GarageFarm.net. Well, I'll show you how to make an account and sign up. I will tell you about all the amazing features GarageFarm.net has to offer. GarageFarm supports CPU and GPU rendering, which is really nice if you want quick renders. The plugin integrates really easily in your 3D program like Blender. They have an add-on, and if you click render, it will just do everything for you. You don't have to package anything, and it supports popular plugins. They're pretty affordable. Usually only a few cents per frame, which is a really competitive price. They offer up to $50 of rendering credits for newly registered users. So that's great if you want to try them out, in the link in the description. And they have an incredible support team with support available 24/7. So anytime you have a problem, don't hesitate to call them. They are amazing. GarageFarm.net integrates perfectly into Blender. So with this scene, I only had to go to render and then render with the render beamer. It was as easy as that. It really didn't take long for me to figure it out. It was pretty amazing, and I could still use my computer while it was rendering, which is a problem I have been encountering a lot lately, where I want to use my computer while rendering something, but it's not possible. But GarageFarm makes that possible, so that's really great. And in the time I was showing you that, the render was already done. So I just had to locate it in my folders and then show it to you.